Hey there YouTube, how's it going? My name is Mary. I am a Canadian citizen. I've moved to Costa Rica about 8 months ago, and we've been living on this beautiful 3-acre property with a kind of a rent-to-own deal. And tragically, very recently, we found out that the deal's falling through and we can no longer purchase this property, and it's been absolutely devastating. When I said I wanted to, well, when I set out to make this YouTube channel, it was supposed to be about homesteading and getting used to living in this climate, and I was really looking forward to starting to grow my own food and starting to be as self-sufficient as possible. And I admit I did have a lot of opportunities to kind of get used to it and to learn. I learned so many things. First of all, I learned how to use a machete to open up these fantastic coconuts, or as we call in Spanish, pipa fria. When it's green like that, and you cut it open, and that's when you get the water out of it. And then as the coconut gets older and older, it kind of dries out, and the water turns into a jelly, and then it turns into your hard coconut meat, where I actually was learning how to make my own coconut milk, my own ground coconut, and drinking that awesome water. It's fantastic. I was also learning a lot about growing bananas and managing a banana grove, because here on this property we've got so many bananas, probably 100 or so or more or so. And although what I did learn is a lot of them have a bacteria that's actually making them sick. So that took me months to learn. So you know what, I've been here for a long time, and I always wanted to make YouTube videos about homesteading and whatnot, about farming, small-scale farming, and learning all these things. And I've been so busy that I never took the time to actually make the YouTube videos and to be able to upload them after all of my troubles on the internet and everything. So here, before I leave this wonderful property, I wanted to take the opportunity to show you some really beautiful parts about it. I will tell you, this property is about 3 acres. I think the selling price on the market right now is about $230,000 US for about 3 acres. And I want to share with you some errors and some mistakes and things you need to know about buying a property in Costa Rica before you get yourself in the same bad situation that we have gotten ourselves in. So as much as we are super sad about leaving, we're kind of just ready to get on with our lives. But before we leave here, I'm going to show you around. Here on this property, we were told, well, it's true, there is a underground spring here. There's a system here of cisterns and a well, and there's a natural spring which they call a naciente. A naciente for us was super important because it gives you your own private water source. What we were not told is that you have to register the spring legally. So I don't know how much it costs. It's probably mostly a pain in the butt of bureaucracy, but we were purchasing this on the principle that there's a working legal spring, and we found out that that was not true. Here we have a wonderful cacao tree, and it's actually looking really quite sad right now because it's been destroyed pretty much by leafcutter ants, that they can ravage a tree in overnight or 2 days, or sometimes they work on the same tree for like a week long. But this tree here, I actually learned a lot about pruning them, and I pruned it and it broke out in leaves and it broke out in flowers. It's got all these wonderful cacao pods here growing, but unfortunately I'm not going to be here when they're ready to harvest. So that's kind of sad. But I have actually collected up a lot of seedlings that seem to sprout on their own, and a lot of seeds. I actually, even a few months ago, was able to harvest them, ferment them, dry them, roast them, and I have delicious cocoa beans in my freezer. You just need some kind of meat grinder or a flour grinder to grind them up into a paste, and then that's how they make chocolate. Here on this property, we were also told that there is a fish pond. And since then, we also found out that the fish pond was illegal because in Costa Rica, you're not allowed to divert water from a river or a stream without a permit. And so somebody came in, a person that used to work here came in and emptied it out and stopped all production. So, and they also took all the fish that were in it. So that was super disappointing to us. If there's a spring, if there's a fish pond, if there's other things like that on your property, you need to make sure that you verify with the government if it's being legally used or not. So here we have a wonderful, like a wonderful flat area that was nice, and I used to make campfires in the evening, tons of bananas. These ones here look sick. Here we have this beautiful pine tree. It was a surprise to me, but actually kind of stupid. Yes, pine trees do grow in Costa Rica. Here's another fruit tree here. Don't think you can see the fruit, but I believe it's called a caimita. And it makes like a purple fruit. They're just starting to grow. And when they ripen, they will turn purple. Also in Costa Rica, and around this area, you have to watch out for snakes. There's a snake that we call here a torciopelo. I forget what it's called in English, but it's highly toxic. Here I had made a garden. It's all gone to seed and just been totally ignored. I actually succeeded in growing corn, broccoli, barley, tomatoes. What else? There's still some tomatoes surviving here. There's an old broccoli plant. I actually started getting into growing peanuts as well. This is a peanut plant. Let's see. Peanuts, how cool. I was super excited to make my own peanut butter. I guess they take about 8 months to ripen, and here I've planted some pineapple, which are obviously got to be left behind. They could take up to 2 years to get to fruit and ripen. Here I planted a a marketable crop that I wanted to start selling, and this is called uchuva, or what they call the fruit of love. It's like a ground cherry. Whoops. It's like a ground cherry. Super delicious. Yum. Tart, but delicious. I was planning on, working on these gardens really hard to be able to grow my own chicken feed and grow our own corn, and way down here at the bottom of the property is where I was hoping to do like your fourth zone kind of gardening, things that take a really long time to grow. Here is one of my favorite spots on the property. It's actually, this stream is actually bordering the property. So this is the property line. Over there is my neighbor. And yeah, a nice little spot where I can hang out in the shade and splash my water on my face. So having a natural spring on your property, a running stream or whatnot, is also so important for us anyways. We didn't want to move to a beach town. We wanted to small scale farm or permaculture and take care of ourselves the best we could. So we don't need beach land. It would be so sandy. It's quite hard to grow things. Up here is where I was basically planning to make a goat pen. It's actually quite a big space. I don't know, 300 meters square space maybe for a goat pen. I have the fencing up that we worked on and that, you know, I paid somebody to help me do. So it's kind of all lost. Oro pendulum. My grass is getting kind of long here. I don't like walking through there if I'm not wearing my boots, so I'm not gonna venture. But this was to be my future goat pen. I'll just have to find a new place and start again. So like I mentioned briefly a couple times, we had somebody working here for us and we were told that that's okay. Like basically how it works here is if you want somebody to come cut your grass or weed whack once a week, that cannot just be paid under the table. Hey, I'm gonna hire some kid from town to come in, cut my grass for me once a week like we would do in United States or Canada. Here, those workers are covered under labor laws and you have to pay insurance. You have to pay, you know, for after a certain time of employment, you have to pay their vacation pay. It has to be registered with the government, the Ministry of Work, and when you pay their insurance, it's called CAHA. And you have to pay their CAHA. And if you don't, it's illegal and you can get yourself into a lot of trouble. I know a lot of people pay their workers under the table and pay their CAHA into the person's pocket, but that worker is supposed to go to a CAHA office and make their own payments to the government. And if you pay that money to the worker directly to go, well, you don't really know if they're going to the office to pay it or not. So legally, you have to go to the CAHA office and make their insurance payments for them. And it's a certain amount depending on their position as a worker. An unskilled laborer is different than a skilled laborer naturally. So, unfortunately, we got into a situation with somebody who was not totally honest with us. And although many people do trust the worker or have a private arrangement with that employee, look at that cocoa pod. Beautiful. You need to have a really good relationship with that worker and you need to really trust them to know for sure, because that worker could come back to you or go back to the labor board and say that, for example, you weren't paying them. Then they can take you to court or take you to the labor board and you will have to pay back fees, which happened to a friend of mine. The worker lied and she got taken for a lot of money because she actually was paying his CAHA. So stories like that are probably abound. I'm just saying, do your research. I guess there's a lot of things we didn't believe, or we were told that it's okay. So we trusted somebody instead of doing our own research, which is a mistake. One of my favorite secret spots here. This is actually not on my property. This is my neighbor's property, but we're good friends, so I know she doesn't mind. That's another thing about buying a property in Costa Rica is you need to be certain about where the boundary lines are, the property lines. A lot of people, I've heard stories, they just go into buying things and they don't know what they are really getting. I have learned over the past weeks of visiting properties and looking into things that you need to ask to see the what they call the uso de suelo, and the it's basically, uso de suelo is the land use, what it's used for, and it can dictate how much construction, square meters of construction you can put on that land. If it's an agricultural, listed as agricultural property, it's different than a residential property, and it will change what you can do or what you can't do. Ideally, what we're now looking for is uso de suelo mixto, mixed. So it's not defined specifically as agriculture or residential or tourist. So if we want to build a couple cabins and rent them out, we need to make sure that we have the proper land to do that. Otherwise, especially as a non-resident or somebody who's looking to get residency, who's not a Tico or a Tika, we could probably get in a lot of trouble if we don't follow those rules. And I don't want to do anything that could hamper my ability to have residency or maybe even one-day citizenship. You also need to look at the municipal documentation and see the title of the property, see the property lines, see who the owners are, and you need to get a lawyer to look into that and make sure with the Registro Nacional, which is a national registry. And basically, if you own anything in Costa Rica, whether it be a car, a land, a business, or any of those things, you will be in the Registro Nacional. And you can check up on that property and find out if there's any liens on it or things like that, anything that might put your sale in danger or your purchase in danger. And that's really important. Don't forget it, especially with Costa Rican real estate agents. They are not regulated and controlled the way they are in North America. So they're not always professional, they're not always ethical, and they're certainly not always honest. So I think I shared a good look at the property, and I don't know if we're gonna find something better. I choose to believe that we will. We might not find all of these elements with a nice house at the price that we're looking for. I don't know if we're gonna find something better in a different way or something equal, and actually we're just gonna kind of hit the road for a little bit. There's some properties that we wanted to look at that are actually on the other side of the country, and so we're gonna pack up our stuff. We've pretty much already moved all of our things out. We're just gonna pack up our car and our dogs and hit the road. I'm really sad about leaving my chickens behind again, as I had to leave them behind in Canada. I kind of have to do the same thing here again, and I find that really hard. But I am lucky enough to have made some friends in the village, and one of them is going to take my chickens for a month or so, or whatever we need, and hopefully they'll be in good health and all alive when I get them back. I think part of the hardest thing for us is the fact that we're losing our friends and our connections in the community, and we've had a lot of, you know, back and forth about, we really would love to stay in this same area so we can keep those connections and friends, but we have to understand that also what we're looking for, price range and attributes about the property is so specific that we need to start looking farther away. And so we're in the position to say goodbye to a lot of our friends. And I figure, like, in 8 months, we made a lot of friends and relationships in the community, and I started feeling accepted, and I no longer feel shy when I walk through town. And now we accept that we have to start over with that again. The same thing we did 8 months ago when we left our country. And yeah, that's moving to Costa Rica for us, you know. It definitely wasn't just move to a nice place on the beach and kick it with some other gringos or some other expats. We really wanted to be part of our community, and I think we succeeded in doing that, and I think we'll do it again. So, ciao for now. I invite you guys to follow along as we go on our road trip and visit properties and hopefully find the property of our dreams, or at least our forever home here in Costa Rica. And thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.